For months, the debate over Germany's long-range Taurus missiles has revolved around one question. Why has Berlin refused to transfer them to Ukraine even when the strategic logic seemed overwhelming? A new development in the program may finally provide the missing piece of the puzzle. Germany is preparing a modernized version of its premier cruise missile, Taurus Neo, and one critical change inside this weapon could quietly unlock the political and industrial barriers that have stalled deliveries. But what exactly does changing an engine have to do with geopolitics, export controls, and the future of European strike capability? To understand the significance, we need to return to the core problem facing Germany and Europe at large. Across the continent, the lack of deep precision strike weapons has become painfully evident. Russia has been firing Kh-101S and calibers by the hundreds. The United States has repeatedly declined to export ATACMS with extended ranges, and European arsenals, long neglected in the post-Cold War era, sit dangerously thin. In this context, Germany faces a strategic dilemma: rebuild its own long range strike capability or remain dependent on outsiders. That is the backdrop for the Taurus Neo initiative. According to reporting from Hartpunkt, Taurus Systems GmbH, an MBDA and deal joint venture, plans to invest between 400 and 500 million euros to restart production. This is not a small upgrade program. It is an attempt to resurrect an industrial line that has been dormant for years, while simultaneously transforming Taurus into a next generation, long range, deep penetration cruise missile. Why the sudden urgency? Because Germany is staring at a decade of geopolitical turbulence with too few missiles to defend its own interests, let alone supply partners like Ukraine. The Taurus Neo will keep the familiar airframe, but internally it is being redesigned for a new era of warfare. New materials, modern sensors, revised guidance systems, and crucially, a new engine. At first glance, this seems like a routine modernization step, but the deeper you go, the clearer the strategic implications become. The current Taurus uses the Williams P8315 turbofan, a US-made engine, a component that small may seem insignificant, but in today's globalized arms landscape, it is absolutely decisive. Any missile built with a critical US subsystem falls under American export controls. Washington can simply veto foreign transfers. And given the pattern of recent decisions on Ukraine, slow, politically constrained, and often hesitant, Germany might fear that even if it wanted to provide Taurus, it would not be allowed to. This explains why early reports suggested Germany was evaluating a Japanese engine alternative, but the geopolitical complication reappeared immediately. Japan also restricts the export of lethal components to countries at war. For Ukraine, that means another legal dead end. So, what happens when every foreign engine triggers political, legal, or diplomatic breaks? The answer is you build your own. According to new information from well connected German industry sources, Berlin is now prioritizing a domestic engine replacement, with Aero Design Works GmbH ADW emerging as the leading candidate. This single decision could redefine the missile's export future. No US component means no US veto. No Japanese component means no Japanese restrictions. A fully European engine transforms the Taurus Neo into a sovereign strike weapon, one Germany can export when it wants, to whom it wants, without external political obstacles. Suddenly, the idea of providing Taurus to Ukraine becomes far more realistic. But there is a second layer to the engine upgrade: performance. A more efficient German engine could boost range by 15 to 20%. For a missile already capable of striking 500 kilometers into defended airspace with a specialized bunker-penetrating warhead, this additional endurance becomes strategically transformative. It widens launch corridors, it increases survivability, it gives operators more flexibility to approach heavily defended areas without exposing aircraft to Russian air defenses. And for Ukraine, which must strike deep into logistics hubs, air bases, and rail choke points, range is not a luxury, it is a necessity. So, if the technical logic is so compelling, why hasn't Germany already transferred Taurus? The uncomfortable answer lies in simple arithmetic. There are not enough missiles left. Germany produced only a limited stock during the early 2000s, and those inventories have since dwindled. Without active production lines, every missile supplied to Ukraine would reduce Germany's own strategic reserve. For a country rapidly rearming under the Zeitenwende policy, this is politically difficult, and it becomes even more difficult when each missile costs several million euros. The new Taurus Neo is expected to cost 3.5 million per unit, reflecting advanced materials, complex manufacturing, and precision subsystems. This leads us to the broader geopolitical timeline. Even with the planned industrial investments, Germany does not expect the first Taurus Neo batches until 2029. That means any Ukrainian expectation of receiving new build missiles must be set in the next decade, not the current war cycle. The political breakthrough, if it comes, would likely involve transferring older Taurus variants once Germany secures a replacement pipeline. And that pipeline cannot exist without restarting production, which in turn requires resolving export restrictions. That is why the new German engine is more than an engineering decision, it is the cornerstone of Germany's ability to act. The strategic logic becomes even clearer when comparing Europe's trajectory with other powers. Russia has scaled up Kh-101 production. China has multiple standoff missile programs maturing. The United States fields JASSM-ER and is accelerating development of its next-generation systems. Europe, by contrast, has lacked a coherent long-range strike industrial base. The Taurus Neo represents one of the few genuine attempts to change that. But can Germany sustain the political will and financial commitment required to produce a modern cruise missile at scale? Can Europe coordinate purchases across NATO, or will every nation return to fragmented procurement? And perhaps most importantly, will Germany remain constrained by caution, or will it use Taurus Neo to demonstrate true strategic leadership? These questions matter not just for Europe's defense, but for Ukraine's immediate war effort. Every month, Ukraine seeks to degrade Russia's operational depth. Airfields, command nodes, fuel depots, missile stockpiles, Kharkiv and Odessa are bombarded because Russian aircraft can launch from hundreds of kilometers away. Ukrainian forces need tools to reach those bases. Storm Shadow and Scalp have already shown the value of Anglo-French long-range capability. But Taurus, with its superior penetrator warhead and sophisticated guidance architecture, could target hardened facilities that other missiles struggle to destroy. Yet without new production, Germany faces a zero-sum choice: weaken its own security or strengthen Ukraine's. Engine replacement breaks this deadlock. It allows Germany to expand production without US constraints, lower costs through localized supply chains, and offer a weapon that could become a cornerstone of Europe's future strike doctrine. The question is whether this will come in time for Ukraine. Looking ahead to the 2030s, the picture becomes clearer. If Germany fields Taurus Neo, Sweden delivers new Gripens, France exports Rafale with deep strike integration, and Europe finally breaks dependency on non-European components, a coherent long-range strike ecosystem could emerge. For Ukraine, entering that ecosystem means access not only to Taurus Neo, but to a broader suite of advanced European systems designed specifically for countering Russian doctrine. But the lesson is larger than any single missile. It is about industrial sovereignty. It is about whether Europe can recognize that long-range precision weapons are not optional. They are the backbone of deterrence, alliance credibility, and modern warfighting. And it is about whether political hesitation can be overcome by engineering solutions. Sometimes the path to solving a geopolitical problem begins with something as small as an engine. And sometimes that small component determines whether a nation at war receives the tools it needs to survive. In the case of Taurus Neo, the decision to replace the engine may be the first real step toward unlocking Germany's most capable long-range missile for Ukraine. The coming years will reveal whether Berlin intends to follow through or whether Europe will once again discover that strategic urgency runs faster than industrial capacity.